Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Story Time. Today's episode is going to be entitled How We Broke Perfect Dark, and by that I truly do mean the physical actual cartridge of Perfect Dark. It got broken from playing the game too much and I'm going to get around to all of that, but I need to start the video with a lot of trigger warnings. I'm going to tell the truth and say this isn't the first time I've recorded this, and basically the episode started off one way and then it quickly devolved into something else, and it became very real, very raw, very emotional, and I actually was really happy that I'd managed to catch that essentially and I wanted to put that up. I was proud of it, but in realizing once I'd hit record I hadn't done any trigger warnings because I didn't expect it to get to where it did. So I thought, okay, I need to do the responsible thing, record a minute thing, intro, basically saying what the trigger warnings are going to be. And when I went to add it onto my editing software, I know exactly how it happened, but it saved the video as the exact same video title, and as soon as I'd clicked that, it instantly erased all of the old footage instead of continuing to buffer it onto the new video. I've used editing softwares before where it allowed you to do that, so it manages to stop you when you're about to make a mistake like that, and unfortunately my mistake was not caught. And speaking of cuts, just like when I used to record videos, I'll still live in a country where ice cream vans are a thing, and hopefully I managed to cut that in time so that you didn't get deafened by it. But anyway, let's continue on. I'm hopefully finally going to actually get to record this. So, the trigger warning side of things is very important. Basically, I'm going to be discussing growing up in a dysfunctional family. I'm going to be discussing friends, essentially coming together for that reason, because we all grew up in a dysfunctional family, the three of us that I'll be bringing up, although I'm obviously not going to mention any names. And I'm going to be mentioning specifically celebrity deaths and celebrity suicide, because basically when I was growing up, didn't have the greatest of homes anyway, didn't have the greatest of childhoods, as will eventually get told throughout a lot of stories, most likely on this channel, because the whole point of this channel is to discuss a lot of the darker side of life and things that people have gone through, mainly myself obviously. But basically, when my parents decided to have a third kid, and saying decided is kind of, you know, being generous, they also decided that they were too old for kids, essentially, and decided to just check out and just leave the new one to be feral. And the new one really was feral, because myself, my at the time best friend, and a guy who we were hanging around with, I say a guy, obviously he was a teenager as well, we were hanging around with, we all came from severely abusive and horrible homes. One of them went on to become a drug addict and full right-winger. The other one just started to lean very right-wing, and that became a problem when, you know, I myself am queer and trans, and I'm like, I really don't like the attitude that you're having towards pretty much any minority right about now. And yeah, so we definitely left each other's lives a long time ago. But at the time, we were the only people that the three of us had, and they would come around every single day, and usually it would be, we'd either play like Smash Brothers or No Mercy, which No Mercy felt like that would be the cartridge that we broke, because we used to do just so many Royal Rumble, Battle Royale, and just like constant things. We were trying to unlock some of the characters, and one of them really did require so much grinding, so we would play that game an obscene amount of time. But we would also play the likes of Duke Nukem, GoldenEye, and Perfect Dark. And Perfect Dark, I actually got extremely lucky one day. I used to be very good friends with someone who used to run the local Blockbuster, and she managed to get me a rental copy for stupendously cheap. So I suddenly managed to have that, and we didn't have a lot of games at any one time. That's the way a lot of this worked. Like, one of us owned one thing, one of us owned another, but we would usually like all gather around whoever's house we could get into. Whoever's was usually the least chaotic, and mine was never really the least chaotic, but I did at least have like locks on my door. And I had to have locks on my door because, again, as part of the parents checking out, my youngest brother basically was very violent and would just lash out at anyone, and would take chunks and like literal chunks of skin out of people and cause you to bleed and like have scars. I've still got scars all over me from him, and I didn't blame him because he was just an autistic child lashing out. I definitely blamed the parents who didn't ever like give a fuck. And even when friends came round, and he never really attacked the friends, but he was like usually attacking mostly me whilst in front of all of the friends and everything. And I'm not going to beat the crap out of a young kid because that's just not the way I am. So I would usually just play defense the entire time until eventually someone came and like grabbed him. So yeah, life was fun, and he used to scream a ton and make a ton of noise. So when we'd sit and play Perfect Dark for an obscene amount of hours, usually on the 6 weeks holidays, which was basically the UK's version of like summer vacation. So we'd sit there and we'd just play Perfect Dark all day, every day. From the moment we got up to the moment I went to bed, they would get chased essentially, and then they'd come back the next day for the moment I got up for the... And as a result of essentially spending 16 hours a day on a good day, to be honest, maybe longer than that some days, we really did abuse the hell out of that cartridge. It was just constantly in, constantly active, constantly being played. We were running challenge after challenge after challenge. Basically, we'd play the multiplayer, and all of us were so genuinely good at the game because of how much we played it. We started to impose a bunch of self-imposed challenges and rules. Sometimes it would be a case of 1 versus 1 versus 1, and then a bunch of bots, and the bots were all on their own team. So it was 3 solos versus a team of bots. Sometimes it was a solo with some bots each. Sometimes we would just make silly little rules of only this person's allowed to use this weapon and everyone else has to use this weapon. We would just honestly spend every waking moment playing the game, and we did that, as I know I've mentioned earlier, with No Mercy, and it's why I truly figured No Mercy would be the game that will eventually break and melt, and I can only assume that's what happened with it. We don't know genuinely what actually happened to the cartridge. It just stopped working one day. We booted it up, we played all day, everything was normal, everything was fine. And we turned it off for a very brief moment to take lunch. And usually we didn't even turn it off, but because we had to actually do stuff for lunch, it wasn't just a case of grabbing food that was on hand or grabbing a snack or anything. We actually actively had to make lunch. We thought, right, we'll turn the console off, we'll let it breathe. Hilariously, we'll let it breathe, we'll let it rest, because we know we've been abusing it recently. And yeah, we came back from lunch. Game just wouldn't turn on. Just no matter what we did, the entire thing would not turn on, it would not boot, it would not go past the menu screen. So to be fair, it did boot, it just wouldn't go past the menu screen. Hilariously, I'm getting kind of killed at the right time, but I'd get all of this, I'd get all of the Copyright Rare Limited and stuff like that, and N64 expansion pack detected. Obviously mine was the PAL version, because PAL, where's this, the American version, but I'd get to here essentially, and sometimes it would actually load this, but none of the options, like none of the game pack, the new agent or anything, all of that just wouldn't be there. I'd just be stuck on this menu, and we couldn't for the life of us figure out what the hell would actually was going on. We couldn't figure out how to fix it. So yeah, this is the incredibly short story of how we completely melted, essentially broke an N64 cartridge. But we would also sit and listen to music, and we would usually have music on very loud to drown out all of the noise that was going on, and we would sit and listen to Hybrid Theory. It was the first album I ever bought myself. It was Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory. Obviously, I don't know if there is another Hybrid Theory, but I figure I should say that just in case. And this is where the episode is going to take a massive turn, because on top of discussing a lot of dysfunctional family stuff, which, as much as none of them are in my life anymore, some of them did finally stand up to some of their family and cut them out. I've tried doing similar. There's still people that unfortunately I have to interact with, but that's just the way life is. But with Chester and Linkin Park, this is where this episode, as I say, is now going to go a bit dark, because Linkin Park truly was something very important to all of us. I need to do a quick tangent. None of what I'm about to say is trying to be like a weird elitist fan. I don't understand why people are like this with artists, but with Linkin Park, and specifically with anything Chester wrote, Mike Shinoda, who is longtime bandmate and friend, did an album named Post Traumatic, and it took me years, literal years, to be able to actually feel like I was able to listen to that album. I know I'm going to be dancing around all over the place, but all of this does need to be said, and it does kind of have a specific order. And he made that album right after Chester killed himself, and I genuinely couldn't listen to it for the longest time because I knew it was going to break me. There's a song on it that I need to discuss called What the Words Meant. I now need to kind of dance back, essentially, because I will be going back to Mike later. I'm so grateful that he actually wrote What the Words Meant, because when I say a lot of people truly do not understand what Linkin Park songs are about, it's because Chester managed to write songs in such a way that unless you actually had gone through some of the similar stuff that he's gone through, and some of it is similar, some of it is not. He went through some truly horrific shit that I never will, and never have, and hopefully never will. And he went through some stuff that he never went. That, like, you know what I'm trying to say. I went through some stuff that he never went through. But there's a lot of common ground, a lot of crossover, and the song What the Words Meant is basically Mike was listening to music that Chester had wrote, and he was like, I was really liking the lyrics, I was liking the beat, I was loving everything about it, and then he sat me down and he told me what it all actually meant, and he told me the chord that he uses, and he told me a lot of stuff that I was completely oblivious to. And yeah, a lot of people are oblivious to Linkin Park's lyrics, because unless you've lived that kind of life, then you truly don't understand what the words mean. And that's why I said I had to kind of preface this with, I'm not trying to say it as the weird elitist of, oh, you're not a real fan, you don't understand. I hope most people don't understand what those songs are actually about, because it means that if you do understand, then I'm really sorry that you've had such a shocking childhood as well. So yeah, we would sit there listening to Linkin Park over and over and over again, and it's kind of funny that I say that, because that's also a song from the Post-Traumatic album. But as much as Linkin Park, for a lot of people, were kind of a flavour of the month, flavour of the moment type situation, I continued to listen to Chester's music my entire life. Every album that came out, I actually managed to keep up with Linkin Park and enjoy the newer albums. And what I'm about to say, I do not say lightly. Because of all of the code that he wrote, the actual final album, I actually confided in people and said, I really do fear that Chester's going to kill himself because of the lyrics of the newest album. And by the time I was done explaining things, the only person that actually managed to have an audience with who was willing to take me seriously was like, yeah, that sounds pretty bad, and I really hope you're wrong. And that same person, so this was decades after Hybrid Theory and decades after Perfect Dark and everything, I was sitting in a PlayStation chat, getting ready to do a raid on Destiny, and he joined the chat. And this was back when you could use social media sites like Facebook for news, and he just said, you need to open Facebook. And I could tell from the moment he joined the chat, from the way that he said everything, I knew 100% what I was about to read. I knew that I was going to find out that Chester was dead, and more specifically that he took his own life. And when that happened, it kind of destroyed me for a very long time. Chester was kind of the guy that I was pinning a lot of my mental health hopes on. I was kind of in the state of, well, he had a horrific childhood, and he's still okay, he's still fine, he's still good, he's still alive, everything's okay, this is fine, this is fine. And then when that happened, suddenly I had the mental health check of, oh shit's not fine at all, shit's not even close to fine, oh god. And yeah, it was fun, to say the least. I say that obviously very sarcastically. I very quickly had to address a lot of stuff in my life. And yeah, this weird game break has came at probably the weirdest time, but I don't want to make a cut. I want to try and get through this, because it's hard talking about some of this stuff. And again, this is why it took a very, very long time for me to be able to listen to Post-Traumatic. And then when I finally did, when I then started to hear over and over and over again the track after basically the album opens, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, and it's a bunch of voice messages that are left from Mike, and his entire life's coming apart and crashing down. And then the next song is called Over Again, and it's about saying goodbye. And yeah, the entire album and everything broke me. A lot of this broke me, to be honest, and it really, really sucks that I never actually got to see Linkin Park in concert. I understand they still exist as a band. I'm not actually going to be discussing anything to do with the new album or anything here. This is all purely about Chester and what he meant to me, and the fact that I can honestly see, as much as the friendship ended between the three of us, there are three of us who are still walking on this planet because of Chester and just being able to sit and chill out. And again, maybe we weren't supposed to be fated to be friends for life. At the end of the day, I don't like the fact that a couple of them turned very nasty, to say the least, and bigoted and everything. And it sucks that politics truly does ruin everything, but unfortunately, I truly do believe in human decency, and if you cannot treat everyone with decency, then that's kind of a fucking problem. There are a specific group, and when I say group, I should say a class of people who deserve a lot better, and there are a specific class of people who have been shitting all over a lot of people and deserve a lot worse, and I'm not prepared to go any further into that at this moment in time. So instead, I'm going to say, I think I have finally managed to essentially record this. I know it's been dancing around all over the place, and I've had to go sometimes forward to the future, essentially. Not that, I mean, all of this is the past, but sometimes I've had to go to the, 2020 down to 2015 down to 2010 down to 2000. I think this game came out in 99 or something. I want to say it. You'd think I'd remember. But it's one of those years and everything like that, memories. A lot of stuff goes with trauma, just a fuck ton of it. I can barely remember most of anything these days, let alone vividly the dates of when things come out. So it's more a case of Perfect Dark wasn't the game that came out in the summer of 99 that was like a fun little story. It was Perfect Dark came out, and when it came out, it basically is the reason that me and two people were kind of managing to survive on this planet while we were all going through some pretty horrific shit. And listening to people sing about going through some pretty horrific shit, and it took me a long time to realise that people didn't really understand Linkin Park, because again, the guy Chester is so much of a genius. He managed to write in such a code that I got it straight away, and I was like, oh well, yeah, like this is this whole thing. And it was when I started to talk to other people, and I'm like, your takes on the music are technically accurate, but it's like, do you understand the lyrics? I'm confused. So when Mike actually did what the words meant, that suddenly opened my eyes, because it was a case of, oh, so you mean people who actually have this kind of severe trauma do all speak in a shorthand code that only makes sense to them, and that's why I was able to understand it. Yeah, right, that makes so much sense. So yeah, I actually do fully understand why Linkin Park was a band that was a flavour of the month for some people, because yeah, if you liked their original music, I'm not surprised you started to dislike their newer albums, because they changed their style all the time. But for me, I still was getting Chester's stories, and Chester basically shining a mirror up and saying, hey, just because people don't see you doesn't mean I don't. And yeah, it really sucks that he's gone. It's weird to really miss someone who I've never met. It's weird to miss someone who meant so much to me, who literally didn't even know I existed. It's just one of those bizarre things that art really can connect people in that way. And there are other artists that I definitely vibe with a lot who have similar mindsets, to be honest. And it's like Linkin Park truly was my first album. It was my first band that I ever got into, and it took me a while to realise that that's just not how music works, that actually sometimes people do sing in a complete nut chord. There's songs out there that I probably don't know the meaning of because they're not for me, you know? And it's the same with pretty much everything. It's like how, and I don't want to use this comparison, but it's the only one I can think of, it's like how you get a load of people saying, oh, when you're in love, you understand the songs differently. I'm romantic, so never got romance songs, to be honest, anyway. But I know that that's a cliche, so I'm hopeful that at least in that respect, you can understand what I mean. Because again, I'd never wanted this to come off as like a weird elitism thing. It was just a case of, oh yeah, I grew up with severe trauma, so I understand these lyrics, and I'm so sorry to hear that you also do, Chester. And even worse was finding out that he literally couldn't overcome his demons no matter what he did, and ultimately they were the end of him. And that really sucks, because yeah, I don't really have any other way to say against it. And I know this is now a weird hard pivot to essentially change into a different topic, but well, not so much topic as much as I'm essentially ending the video. But yeah, I understand these videos are truly not for everyone, but with the way mental health is stigmatized and everything, needing to make these videos, sometimes I even need to just make them for myself. Sometimes it's like a self-therapy situation where I just need to get these things out. But if any of this truly does help anyone, then that's a great win. That's a huge win. That's kind of the main reason that I'm doing this. And it means that if you do have, maybe you don't have Perfect Dark in Linkin Park, maybe you have a different artist in a different game, and maybe you also have been in a friendship group where you knew fine well that was not really a great group of friends. It was just people who truly did need each other to survive at that moment in time. And that is what we were doing together. We were surviving. And it feels weird that they're not in my life anymore, because like I was probably only really here because of them for at least a couple of weeks of my life. But it's also even weirder to, I don't so much want to say I don't care, but at the same time, when you start suddenly shitting on people's right to exist, and I'm like, my dude, you grew up in a very abusive household. How dare you fucking now turn around and say that you don't like immigrants, or you don't like this, that, the other. Like, the stuff that they're fleeing, you were also fleeing, except you weren't doing it from an active war zone. You know, it's just maddening that it's a cliche, and it's maddening that it's a cliche. This is actually the same sentence I am trying to say. I understand it's a cliche, but it's maddening that it's a cliche. That there are so many people who grew up in awful homes and grew up with such abuse who then become abusers themselves. And I've never understood that, because I would never ever want to try to make anyone feel even remotely like I was felt in my childhood. You know, I don't understand how people can live like that. I truly fucking do not. And I understand in some places it's a case of like the weird power trip. You go from the weak, unable to do anything, to suddenly you have power and it corrupts. Again, it's another cliche, and I do get that that can happen. But at the same time, do you have literally no empathy, that you can't understand that some people are really suffering like you were suffering, and what you're doing and your actions are making things worse for them the way that they were made worse for you? I was always desperate for someone in my life to come and, like, I'm going to say Matilda. Hopefully you understand what I mean. I always felt like Matilda, as in the book character, or movie character if you want to go for the movie. And I always wanted my Miss Honey. I wanted someone to come along who would actually give a damn and help and have some people see some justice. And that never happened. So now I actually try to do that for other people. I've tried to be a mentor in places. There's people whose I've actually had these conversations with when I used to run my YouTube channel, and I know for a fact that they are no longer on this planet, because they too were from awful, abusive homes, and I was doing my best to help and say, listen, I've actually been here and I truly can relate, and I'm going to try my best here to give you a voice, give you someone to talk to. But ultimately, because I lived in a different country and there was nothing really I could do, I couldn't provide the level of support that they needed, and they're no longer with us because of their awful parents. So yeah, I understand that, as I say, all of this is a very heavy topic, but it's why I wanted to make this video and wanted to be able to make a space where people can post. Again, whether or not, like, it's not a case of Perfect Dark and Linkin Park. If there was a group of friends, if there was games, if there was music, anything at all that's kept you alive, I want you to have a video where you can post that and not worry about me deleting the comments. Now, YouTube might delete it, because YouTube deletes everything these days. I don't want to end this video with a rant, so I am going to try to just close this video out now, because I will end off ranting about this. But it's the fact that even when I'm in hockey circles, because I'm an Avalanche fan, and at the time of recording this, the Avs have just made the playoffs, and Avalanche hockey is one of the few things that can truly help my mental health. It really can. So it's like, for everyone who doesn't understand how you can get into sports, it's because sports can allow you to shut off at a time when you need it. But one of the things in hockey is that you have to do a penalty kill, and the amount of times that I will write up great kill, meaning that we did a great penalty kill, and YouTube's just like, hey, you used the word great and kill together. No, we're going to delete that. And it's like, I understand YouTube, whatever the AI auto-moderating crap like this with that, will auto-delete anything it flags as potentially harmful, but it's so maddening that you can then have loads of people spamming slurs or saying whatever they want in videos, and it doesn't seem to matter. But then I could post on a hockey thing, we need a great kill here, or that was a really good kill, that was a strong kill, when I'm clearly talking about penalty killing. Or if I was on a video game where I'm killing another, like, YouTube's weird, and it's maddening. And again, I didn't want to turn it into a rant, so instead I thought, still get it out, but try not to now ruin the integrity of the video, I guess. So yeah, I am done. Before going to yet another tangent, waffle or anything, I am at least very happy with this video, and it does seem to have recorded as well. Like, as long as I don't need to do any editing, which I know fine well I need to do because of the ice cream van earlier, then all should go well. So if you're seeing this though, then it means that it has gone well, and yeah. And this is also why I end a lot of videos, well, every video, with I hope you have a great rest of your day, because yeah, these videos are going to be niche. But if you are someone who actually relates with anything I say in any of this, then chances are you do actually need someone to come along and say, I hope you have a great rest of your day. It's, to quote BoJack Horseman, it's a free churro moment, you know? And the first time someone did a free churro moment for me, I broke down crying as a result, because sometimes just a small thing of kindness can do that to you when you haven't really experienced much. So yeah, I hope the video's helped. If there's anything at all you want to unburden yourself and get off into the comments, then go for it. Obviously, I can't guarantee that YouTube won't delete it, but I will try my best, if my social anxiety allows me, to read and respond. And until next time, I truly do hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.